Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about things in New Trek I don't like part 2. So I planned on making this video about, I think, last night. And so because I just started watching Star Trek Discovery again, because I just realized I never finished season 4 because I had got rid of my Paramount Plus a while back and I never finished it. And I also remember I never finished the episode, the season finale of season 2. And when I watched the season finale of season 2, oh God, my eyes just wanted to throw up. I forgot how bad that show used to be. It was just so annoying and everything. But I will say this, season 4 is a whole lot better than season 1 and 2. It's not perfect, but at least it's trying, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's trying and everything, but there's still things that it does that gets on my nerves and everything. And that would cause me to want to make this video. But then I'm like, crap, dude, Star Trek Day is today. I want to say something positive, but instead this video is going to be negative. So hopefully maybe later on today, maybe I'll say something positive about Star Trek or something like that. But I am pretty busy, so, you know. If I do, I do, and if I don't, I just don't. And so, anyways, there are just things in New Trek that just gets on my nerves and stuff. I made a video about this about, I don't know, a year or two ago, and so I'm not going to try to harp on none of the things that I mentioned a while back, but I'm going to just try to mention some new things today. Things that I keep seeing recurring in new Star Trek series. I don't understand why they keep copying off one another and stuff. And it's just little things that just kind of bugs me, you know, that I just find very odd and very annoying. And so one of those things, let me just get this one out the way. Holding hands. So in Star Trek Discovery season 4, something happened, some type of phenomenon, you know, the big event, that entire season, I keep destroying everything. The DMA or whatever it's called, like something was gonna hit the ship. I think it was kind of like some type of like energy wave or radiation, something like that, right? And so they decided, hey, if we hide in the transporter buffer, this won't affect us. So everybody goes in the transporter buffer except for, you guessed it, Michael Burnham, who has to do everything. So she hops in like a spacesuit so she won't get affected by the radiation, and everybody's in the transporter buffer and this and that. And the thing I found so odd was that when everybody went in the transporter buffer, all the crew members were holding each other's hands. And I'm just kind of like, why in the world are y'all holding hands for? Like, what is that supposed to symbolize on the show? That y'all are a unity, y'all are a family? It's hard to feel that way when you don't really see people interact in a very family type oriented type way, like in, say, Deep Space Nine, where everybody on that ship acted like they were their best friends or family member or something, because most of them were and everything. But here it feels so artificial and fake. Everybody's just like, hold hands and go to the transporter buffer and everything's gonna be all right. And it's just kind of like, it feels fake. It feels artificial. It doesn't feel like it's been earned. Not to mention these people barely know each other. They've only known each other for like 2.5 years and stuff. And it's just like, it's just weird and crap. And it just feels mushy and unnecessary. And when we say we want more emotion and heart in New Trek, I don't mean this. But then also something that's kind of weird is kind of like, why did it have to be Michael Burnham to save the day once again? Like, I'm so sick and tired of that. Like, Gray is now an android. So technically, shouldn't an android be all like, yo, I'm an android, I got android skin. Like, this radiation just gave me like a little burn. But hey, that's all right, because I'm not going to feel nothing because I'm an android and everything. But then I think now androids are synthetic, and I think they have some kind of organic skin, I think now, based off of that whole Star Trek Picard crap in season 1. And so I think now they can literally die like a regular human and stuff. So Yeah, I guess the radiation would affect them, but still, you think they'll be like, hey, I'll sacrifice my life. I'll get in the radiation suit and I'll sit here, since y'all are real life human beings and I'm just some artificial like memory constructor and everything like that. It's like, why couldn't that person, they would have gave Grace something to actually do and everything. Like, what was the point in bringing Gray back if they weren't gonna do anything with the character and stuff? Next is big-headed aliens. I'm sorry, but this just looks stupid and ridiculous. Why is it that every new alien now all of a sudden has a ginormous head? Is that supposed to be funny? I find it very stupid. And it started with the whole JJ movies and stuff. When Scotty had that big-headed alien friend. And so ever since then in New Trek, like, with Discovery, they copy that idea. And you always see these like normal sized bodies, but a ginormous sized head and everything. And it's just kind of like, I just find it ridiculous and very dumb and like just stupid all around and everything. It's just like, how do they, well, okay, I know how they put the uniform on because they zip up, but what if you have to kind of like a shirt and you have to put on like TOS, so you're not going to be able to put that on. And how do they put the undergarments on? Because think about it, they have to wear like a t-shirt underneath or a second uniform type shirt underneath. So how do they do that when they have that ginormous head and everything? And it's just, I don't understand why. Like, it's just so frustrating because it's just ridiculous and everything. It's like trying to make a mockery of old Star Trek and everything. But I remember one time I was in college and I told my teacher that they making an Alvin and Chipmunks movie. And I was excited because, I always wanted to see Alvin and the Chipmunks in live action. And she said she is not looking forward to that movie because of the simple fact every time they take an older property from like the 70s or 80s, they make it into a spoof. They did that with Charlie Angels, and they did that with Miami Vice, and like, all kind of other shows. What was it, Chip and Dukes of Hazzard. They just keep making everything into like a parody and everything. And that's kind of what they're doing here with these giant head like aliens and stuff. Modern slang or modern day isms. Look, you're in the stinking future, all right? I don't want to see modern, like 21st century crap. I'm tired of seeing modern day looking clothes, modern day looking buildings. I'm tired of them using modern day slang. I'm tired of hearing modern day music. And it's just weird. Like, it's just very, very, very weird to see and hear all that in Star Trek. I'm getting tired of people saying dude or what's up or yo dog or something like that. Like, stop saying crap like that. Like, the thing I always liked about old Trek is that, they were very proper and everything, They didn't use slang of the future because the writers didn't know what their slang terms would be. So they would be very, very proper because, they're very educated in the future and stuff like that. And they're so inverse into the whole, like, properness that they listen to old classical music of all things, They don't listen to music that has like words in it. And it's just weird all of a sudden hearing a modern day song or a song from like the 80s in like New Trek and everything. And it's just awkward. It's just weird to hear, you know what I'm saying? And it's like that in every New Trek. Now, it was funny in First Contact because, that was something new, different, and it just took you by surprise. But then, I've always had a problem with modern day stuff in Star Trek ever since TOS, I don't mind if they go to an alien planet and for whatever reason, the alien planet looks like Earth of like whatever century they're in then. But, when like, what was it, Undiscovered Country or something like that movie, when the three main stars were camping and they was dressed in regular camping looking clothes, and it's just kind of like that was just too modern and everything, and I did not appreciate that. One of the things I always liked about TOS and TNG was that when they put people in clothes, they really used their imagination to see what a future looking clothes will like, look like and stuff. I don't want to see people wear jeans anymore. Like, I'm tired of seeing that in New Trek. Same thing with the buildings. I remember I was watching Into Darkness, and some of the buildings look really cool and futuristic, and the other ones look pretty modern, and it just looked kind of bizarre and odd and weird. It's like I'm supposed to be pretending that y'all are in the future when y'all acting like y'all are in the past. Same with all these 21st century hairstyles. Now, granted, people back in like Star Trek, all like, you know, that's something that's always been bugging me. Like, you know, in TOS, they had 60s hairstyle and go-go boots, and I didn't like that. But, you know, watching it in the 80s, I'm like, okay, I don't know nothing about the 60s, so whatever. But still, they still need to keep it some type of like professionalism looking. Like it needs to be like a professional looking hairstyle, like wear your hair in a bun, or if you're gonna have long flowing hair, then fine. But when I be seeing like all these new hairstyle, like the man bun and stuff like that, it just looks kind of awkward and everything in Star Trek. Like when you see Star Trek, like you don't see people wearing their hair like the Romans and the Greeks and ancient civilizations. Us is probably like an alien, I guess. Like Vulcans kind of do kind of like that Roman Greek kind of look, but other than that, like, you know what I'm saying, you don't see modern day like, you know, hairstyles and everything. And the slang is really getting on my nerves, especially in Strange New Worlds and stuff. Like it's just like I'm not expecting you to hear that. How people are able to move up in the ranks. Like I love 7 of 9 when she was on Voyager, but I've never liked 7 of 9 when she's in New Trek. And one of the things that I'm not throwing my camera. And one of the things that's confusing me is how she keeps like moving up in the rank system. She was in Starfleet. I don't know her rank at that time, but then she dropped out and join some type of rebel group type thing where they go around like avenging like other people and killing folks, right? And also Starfleet doesn't really want her in there because she's former Borg. And after Janeway tried and everything, you know, some stuff failed, and I think Picard was able to get her back into Starfleet. Then when she is back in Starfleet, all of a sudden she's a commanding officer, the first commander and everything. And it's like, how? She hasn't been in Starfleet in many years. So why did they decide to give her back her full rank and everything, or advance her and stuff? Then at the end of the season, she becomes a captain. And it's just kind of like, really? You're captain already? And we really don't get to see too much leadership skills from you? And I'm just like, I don't understand that. Now, if they would have made her a lieutenant commander, I would have been fine, and made her a science or operation or engineering type person, I would be more happy, because that's more in line of the old 7 of 9. It's just weird to see her rank up so high. Like when it came to Geordi and everything, we saw his rank progression throughout the entire of the season and stuff. You know, he went from an ensign to lieutenant commander, and he went from being the pilot to that of like the chief engineer. And even though we still saw every now and then he could take command of like the ship. So in alternate futures, when we saw him as like a captain or admiral, it made sense and everything. But, you know, it doesn't make no sense for 7 of 9, because all throughout Voyager, she had no leadership skill and barely no Starfleet skills. And now all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe she has it after she joined that rebel group and started murdering people of all people. Then you have Ro Lowry, who, you know, everybody's favorite mutineer rebel and everything. And then all of a sudden, she has a high-ranking command in Star Trek Picard. How? She literally betrayed Starfleet and joined a terrorist organization. And she messed up the first time a long time ago, to where they stripped her of all her ranks and everything and made her an ensign. And then she went up and became a lieutenant in TNG. And now all of a sudden, I think she's like, what, captain or something like that? And it's like, how in the world? And how in the world did Geordi become a Commodore? Like, why that of all things? And he has so much better skills than being that. And I don't understand how they're just able to rise up in the ranks, like within like a split second and everything in New Trek. The Doctor. I would really appreciate if doctors would actually act like a doctor. You have Discovery and Strange New Worlds, and both their doctors don't act like doctors whatsoever. Picard series really doesn't have a doctor, but then, you know, when you get to season 3, you know, they have 2 and they actually act like doctors. Okay, fine and everything. I'm so happy about that. But when you get to Discovery and Strange New Worlds, think about it. those two doctors, have you ever seen them actually do anything medical wise? Have you ever seen them perform surgery? Have you ever seen the ship under attack and they're in sick bay trying to treat the wounded and everything? You don't see that no more in New Trek when it comes to the doctors. Like Obanga, he is in season 2. Like, okay, in season 1, I like his story arc with his daughter. And he was, using his medical skills to keep her kind of alive, but more like engineering transporter type stuff. But then you get into season 2, and now he's this aggressive, angry person who's always fighting. And apparently he's a war veteran who fought the Klingons and stuff like that. And he doesn't really act like a doctor. If anything, Nurse Chapel acts more like a doctor than he does. Like, I remember in the season 1, I saw her running around injecting people with stuff and her coming up with a diagnosis for what's going on with them in season 2. She acts more like the doctor than he does. And then you get into Discovery and their doctor. At first he started acting like a doctor, but then all of a sudden, like, he became the ship's counselor as opposed to also being a doctor. And him being a counselor makes absolutely no sense, and it's the dumbest thing ever. If it's for budgetary reasons, okay, fine, but at that same time, the Paramount shows, the CBS shows, they have a huge budget, or at least they used to before the first 2 seasons of Discovery screwed all that up, and Picard season 1. And so their budget's been reduced, but you mean to tell me you can't bring one person as a recurring role to be the counselor and everything? And his explanation as to why he's the counselor makes absolutely no sense. His explanation is simply put that, he's the best one qualified in these circumstances. No, he's not. He's a doctor. A doctor is supposed to cut you open, take your temperature, check your heart, give you medication, be all like, take 2 of these and call me in the morning and stuff like that. Check your fever, like I said. Like, they're supposed to do that. They're not supposed to counsel you in dramatic stuff. They're not qualified for that. No doctor is qualified for that, like a medical doctor. Now, in Voyager, I gave it a pass because of the simple fact they really was in a situation. They was all the way in the Delta Quadrant, so it's not like they could go to Starfleet Command and go get a counselor because that was all the way in the Alpha Quadrant. Plus, the doctor is a hologram with all the most sophisticated medical minds put in his, matrix and stuff, and maybe they threw in a couple of counselors and stuff. So I can give that a pass. But for him, I can't, because they're in the Alpha Quadrant, and they can literally just, go on over to Starfleet headquarters and get a counselor and stuff. So it's just really weird, and it's because they have nothing for his character to do. So that's why they gave him that extra role and everything. And he's not really even all that good at being a counselor and stuff. I want to see the chief engineers actually do some engineering. In both Discovery and Strange New Worlds, we have a chief engineer who never really does any type of engineering type stuff. In fact, in Discovery, we still haven't even seen the engine room yet. All we see is Stamets' lab, and he's a science officer. And so we've never got to see the warp core or nothing like that. And so, God, I can't even remember her name. I can't remember her name. I seriously can't. The chief engineer in Discovery. And that's because her character is barely on the show, and her character never does any engineering type stuff. She got introduced into the 2nd season, I think. And she kept her crew alive and says, science is just like medical or something like that. And she was able to put 2 and 2 together. 1, no, it is not. And 2, when she did come aboard Discovery, she never showed up. And when she did show up, it was either to say something funny towards Tilly or insult a man. When I forgot who it was, she shouted at her superior officer. I think it was Saru, and he was the captain. And she literally just cussed the dude out, and that's her superior officer. And then she made a joke about that. And she's always saying something monotone and witty and stuff. And that's not being an engineer. And the only time I ever saw her actually do anything engineering-ish was in season 4 when she assisted Stamets and that one scientist trying to create a black hole. She was their assistant. She is the chief engineer. Why is she even on the show? But for some bizarre reason, fans just love her. And why? I don't get it. And now you have the chief engineer in Strange New Worlds. And this woman literally does, well, I haven't finished Strange New Worlds. I got 5 more episodes to go. And this woman doesn't do anything engineering. Like, we know she used to teach at the academy. For whatever reason, she came on board Enterprise. And then it's just like, she just talks to people. She kind of like gives them kind of like advice. Or, you know, and she's witty and everything. Once again, we have another witty chief engineer who never does any engineering type stuff. Maybe in those last 5 episodes, maybe she will, but so far she ain't did diddly. And last but not least, tragic backstories. I'm sorry, but when did Star Trek become so depressing? It's like everybody has a tragic backstory now. And one of the things fans have complained about is that we don't, like, say Discovery, we don't know none of those crew members and stuff. The bridge crew is supposed to be the main bridge crew, but yet they're not even main stars of the show, and we never know nothing about them. Don't know their rank, don't know their name. We kind of know what positions they take on the ship, but some of them we kind of don't. And I still to this day don't know none of their names. And now I just found out that a bunch of them are now commanders. When the heck did that happen? They literally only been on that ship for like 2.5 years or 3. And so, like, you know, seriously, it's always one tragic backstory after another. And the tragic backstory has nothing to do with their character growth or what's going on in that actual episode. In the past, in old Trek, yeah, everybody had a tragic backstory too. But the moment we discover the tragic backstory, get to see either in, like, you know, flashbacks or we hear about it, it will retain to what's ever going on in that actual episode. Here it's just like the most random occurrence, and they just decide to tell a tragic backstory. Like, okay, what is it? Book was going through the motions of his planet being destroyed, and now Counselor Hugh and everything was trying to, like, you know, counsel him and everything. And so he was telling him a tragic backstory of something that happened to him in the past. And it didn't relate really to whatever was going on in the show during that time. And if he really wanted to give a tragic backstory, why didn't he just tell when he died in season 1 or 2? 1, I think it was. And then there's another episode where they had to evacuate a penal colony because that DMA thing was going to go through and kill everybody. And so I forget the Asian guy's name. I think he might be the security officer. And as Burnham, of course, she's going to go down and save the day. Well, Book and everything. Like, whatchamacallem? The Asian dude comes to her and is all like, I have to go with you to the planet and everything. He's all like, when I was younger, this tragic thing happened to me. I'm all like, oh, okay, they're finally going to get into this dude's backstory. He's finally going to go on an away mission and do something. He goes on the away mission and we just never see him. And that's it. We see him in a holographic form talking to her, but nothing of support importance. And then it's just Michael Burnham and Book hanging out with the prisoners, and that's it. And it's just like, well, what's the point in telling that story? It doesn't even relate to why you need to go to the planet so bad. Then there's the operations officer. I forget her name, but she's the black woman. Her and Saru got into a kerfuffle and everything. And so that was early in the episode. Then all the way towards the end, she wanted to apologize to him. She's all like, I want to apologize for my behavior. See, when I was younger, this tragic thing happened to me. And then I'm just kind of like, and then that's it. And I'm just kind of like, that's it. Like, what importance? Like, why did you randomly tell that story and everything? It just came out of the blue. And I'm just kind of like, what's the point in that story? Why is it always tragic? Does nobody have a good, happy, like, childhood memory? And then there's Tilly as to why she joined Starfleet Academy, which I truly believe they retconned why she joined Starfleet, because it didn't make no sense as to what she said in season 1. And then once again, it's a tragic backstory with her mom and everything. I'm just kind of like, seriously, what's up with the tragedies? And then you got Picard series in season 1, and Riker's son just happens to die. Him and Troy's son die, and it's a tragic backstory and everything. And I'm just kind of like, you know, and then you have, what's her face? Raffi. More tragic backstories. And I get it. Like, tragic backstories give good character development and growth, but only if you actually do something, like, with it and everything, you know? Like, take Worf and everything. When Worf was on TNG, he had a tragic backstory of, you know, him losing his father to the Romulans and being raised by humans. Then it turns out that it was a ruse and his father was blackmailed and everything, and it put disgrace throughout his entire family. He found the people who disgraced his family, but he decided to, after confronting them to try to, like, you know, bring honor to his family name, he decided it can't because it will untip the balance of peace and everything between the Klingon homeworld. So he lives with that lie for all of TNG. Then you get all the way into Deep Space Nine, and he's finally able to restore, I think, honor to his family's name and everything, I believe. And, you know, it was a tragic backstory that had relevance to that episode that they told and throughout the entirety of 2 completely different series and stuff. And that's how you do that. But here is just the most random occurrence of, I need to tell you my tragic backstory. And then after that, they just leave. And it's because the writers don't know how to write characters no more. Like, okay, one of the things that bugged me in season 4, and I already talked about the whole season 3, the whole say yes thing, but then now I've been noticing in season 4 is that every time something dramatic happens, so somebody comes on the bridge, all the recurring characters on the bridge who never get to do anything or say anything, they just turn to one another and stare dramatically like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're taken by surprise. And I'm just kind of like, is that supposed to give them screen time? Is that supposed to make us like them? Them just staring at each other and turning to each other? That's not how you write characters and character development. And it's a problem I have with New Trek. They can't write to save their careers and everything. And, you know, it's really annoying when it constantly happens. If it was a one-time occurrence, fine, but it constantly happens with them constantly staring at each other. And now that's moved over to Strange New Worlds, where they keep panning to one crew member, is turning and looking at the other crew member, then they turn and look at the other person. And it's so annoying and everything. Ugh. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.